to the cloud. Here we go. So welcome everybody to our SAP Tips and Tricks coffee break. Today we're with Francine Legault, who's a consultant with Forgestic and is a WMS specialist. So she's going to be covering the management of groups of measurement units. So it's all yours, Francine. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing fine. So like Tracy said, today we're going to go and have a little look at unit of measure and management of unit of measure groups. So let's jump to the next. So like I said, we're going to go over the units of measure, the groups. What are the rules when creating a group? The definitions that will be used in our group, so the base unit of measure and all the alternate units of measure. We're going to compare that to formats. And we're going to see in the item master how to assign units of measure and how to assign price list and some new features in SAP 10 regarding the units of measure. So let's jump right away in our system. Let me see. Oh no, it closed. So just give me a second. I'll reopen it. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let me get to my Okay, so first of all, when you're creating a new master data, a new item master data, let's get the one that I prepared for today presentation. So every time you create a new item in the system, the units of measure group is set to manual. Although manual is very useful because you can put anything that you want, it is not recommended. First of all, because the first reason is you can put everything that you want. So I've seen in some places, if I look here at my inventory data, the UOM name for the inventory. In the same company, you might have someone that had put unit, someone else that had put UN, another one put EA for each, and another one put each. It all means exactly the same thing, but it's all different naming. So when doing that, it's very difficult if you want to have better monitoring like reports and queries and things like that. It's very difficult if it's not consistent to have the right information. And also if you ever think about doing integration with add-ons like EDI or a WMS, or even to send ASN to your clients or suppliers, things like that, it is a mess if no one gets the same name as a UOM. So basically, the first thing to do is to create your units of measure. To do so, you'll have to go into Administration, Setup, Inventory, Units of Measure. So here, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of units. This is a test system. So of course, you're gonna see a lot of things in there. But basically what you do is that you name the unit that you wanna use. It needs a code and a name. And you can even set up some data concerning the size of that specific unit or packaging. So if you are using always the same type of box for everything that you have in inventory, well, then it's a good thing. You can put all your dimension and the volume and everything, and you can use that for your packing slip and to send information with EDI. So this is the first step. So creating units of measure. So that's the first thing to do. And then you go to your, you're going to create your units of measure groups. What is a group? Well, it's a bundle of units that you will put together that will represent an item or a group of items that will be packed exactly the same way. And in the units of measure group, you're going to assign different units for the same item. So I will just go back to the here, see? So in a group, you will first of all decide which is going to be your base unit. The base unit is basically the inventory unit and the smallest unit that you can do transaction on. So let's say that you are a beer manufacturer, you're selling your beer always into pack of 6 or 6 packs, cases of 12, cases of 24. So you say, well, I don't need the units except when I have returns, but I don't want to manage the units in my warehouse. That's okay, but you still need to define the unit, the base unit of measure as the unit, and we will see a little bit later on why it is very important. So you have your base unit. Costing is always associated with the base unit. Okay, this is a notion that you need to really understand, that the costing is done on the base unit. And you also will describe in your group what are the alternate units of measure for that same item. So here, for example, we have a jar of strawberry jam. It comes in a box of 4 units. Each box of 4 units can be packed into a carton. So 2 boxes, meaning you have 8 units. And when you create a pallet, then you have a pallet of 216 units. So these are alternate units of measure. Compared to what we call formats. So formats is the same, inside it's the same strawberry jam, but it comes in different sizes. So you have a 100 gram up to a 1 kilo jar, and these should be considered as different item. So it shouldn't be in a unit of measure group. These are different items. So units of measure are really packaging of the same item. So if we go back to SAP, now that we have our units of measure, we have our item master data, we're going to create a group to represent exactly what we saw on the picture. So I'm going to, first of all, assign a code to the new group. So in my case, I'm going to call it coffee break, and I am going to give it a name, a description that would be significant when I see that. Like here, I see a master box 10, so I know it's a unit of measure for units and a master box of 10 units. So in this case, I will just name it coffee break. Once the name and the description has been filled, you can create your group. So you're gonna just click on group definition here, and you will see the grid to fill in. So like we saw before, you have the base unit, which is going to be, in our case, the unit. So if I click on the little round button here, I'm going to have all the list of all the units that I have in my system. And I can create new one on the fly if I want to. So this is my base unit. I say, okay, so when I have a box, the box is going to contain 4 units. When I have a carton, oops, sorry, a carton, always put it there, 1, change, carton. So if I have a carton, it's going to contain 8 units. And if I have 1 pallet, it's going to contain 216 units. So Once all my conversions are created, I will update my group, and my group is now created, and I can assign it to any items that I want. So basically the rules for creating, So the rules are very simple. You will need, first of all, to assign a base unit. Once a group is assigned to a item, it cannot be deleted from the system. And manual is a built-in group. It cannot be deleted either. Take note that it is very important when you assign, like I'm going to do here, I'm going to assign my, let's refresh, assign here. Okay, so I'm going to change my unit of measure group. Okay, when you do that, if you were using manual before and already assigned units of measure for inventory, sales, or purchasing, they will all be erased and you will have to rename them again. So I'm going to say yes to that. Once a group is assigned to an item and you do one transaction, you cannot remove the group after that. So it's sticking to the item for the rest of its life. So you cannot remove or change the units of measure group on an item. So I'm going to update this. So now, as you can see, my UOM for the inventory is my base unit. I won't be able to change it. This is basically automatic. The only thing that I can change, I can say, okay, well, this item, I use units only for returns, and basically in the warehouse and whatever transaction that we're doing, counting and things like that, I will always do it as a box. So I can set this up. So every transaction in the warehouse, like counting at the end of the year and things like that, will be done as a box. And I can assign a sales unit of measure. In my case, it's not there. It's gonna also be a box. So as you can see here, I can select my units of measure because I did a little trick in SAP. So system administration, system initialization, you go into general settings, and usually it's by default, but sometimes it might have been changed. So inventory, items, see here the box, auto add all UOM group definitions to new and existing items. Okay, because of that, I can see the groups here and I can see the units of measure here when I click on the little round button. So sales data, I'm going to choose the box also. And purchasing, I always purchase as a pallet. So this means that in those documents, like a PO or a sales order, by default, the unit that will be shown will be for a purchasing marketing document, the pallet, for a sales document, the box. Doesn't mean that I can't change it. I can sell by the pallet if I want to, but by default, this is the unit that will show on the marketing document. So once this is done, there's two little magic tricks that will now be available to you. First of all, it's going to be the barcodes. So now, since I have a unit of measure group, I can assign barcodes for each and every single one of the. Okay, so for each unit, I can assign a different barcode. So this is very useful for different use. If you are using GS1, especially if you are using GS1, you know that you have different barcodes for the unit, the box, the master box, the outer box, and things like that. So this is useful because you can all tag them according to their units of measure. And if you are using or thinking of having any kind of WMS added to your SAP, then the system will automatically recognize what you are scanning. So if you're scanning a box, it'll know that you are scanning 4 units at a time, and carton is 8 units. So the system will know right away what you are scanning at the moment that you're scanning it. So that's the first little trick that is very useful. The second one is that you can now set up prices for each of these units of measure. So instead of going into the price list and creating discount price lists according to quantities and things like that, you can set them up here in the unit of measure. So you can say that, okay, so my box, okay, which is 4 units. Usually I would sell it for $8, but yeah, I will give the client a discount on that if they're buying a box instead of units. If they're buying a carton, so instead of $16, okay, let's say it's going to be 14. And if they buy a full pallet, instead of 432, I'm going to give them a 20% discount, okay? And here you have your price list created for each unit of measure for the same product. So you update. So now in marketing document, in sales order, you're going to see those prices for depending on the units of measure that you're going to use in your document. So basically, this is really what units of measure groups can do for you. We have new features in SAP 10 that are quite nice for the units of measure. So if you look, so first of all, with SAP 10, you could change the group, units of measure group. Okay, so I could change it for another one if the quantities if the conversion are already in the new group that I'm using. So if I were using a group and it's missing 1 unit of measure and I don't want to, you know, I'm stuck because now I'm missing 1 unit of measure in my group and I assigned it to the item, I can have another group with the missing unit added and just change my unit of measure group, okay? The other feature that you have in SAP 10, let me show you. I'll go back to my units of measure groups here. I'll take my group here, group definition. You have this button here, which is from which you can deactivate a unit of measure. By doing so, if I say, okay, well, now I'm not going to be using boxes anymore. I'm going to sell only by carton and my supplier doesn't send me boxes anymore. So you can just deactivate that units of measure and it will be hidden for it won't be available to set up as a purchase or a sales unit. It will no longer be available in marketing documents and packaging types. So basically it's like you just, you know, remove that units of measure from your group. So this is very useful. If for some reason one of the units is not used anymore, you can just deactivate it and it will just be hidden from then on. The other thing that is very fun to have and the new feature from SAP 10 is that now, if you're familiar with UDFs, you now have the user-defined field. So in your master data and the inventory items here, you now have the UOM master data where you can add UDFs. So in my case, you probably noticed it earlier, In my case, if you look at the units of measure, so I have the standard code, name, and I added a new column, which is the English name. So it's very useful if you have marketing documents that you sell to your clients, and some are in French, some are in English, or even whatever language or any other information that you would tag with the unit of measure. You can add columns here, so UDFs that can be filled with any information that you would like. And it's very useful, like I said, for document, because you can then get this field and put it in any SAP document that you want. So this will cover this new functionality, which is quite fun, I would say. And I wanted to show you what it looks like in a scanner when your units of measure group are not done properly. If you are using any WMS, you will probably be seeing exactly the same thing. So this item, we know for sure that it's been set up properly because we just did it. So let me show you a couple of items that I saw at other clients and that caused some headaches for the client and for us. So the first one is this item. So this client was selling beer, obviously. And like I said, when they were not using the WMS, it was easier for them to just manage everything in case of 12, but to add the unit as an alternative unit of measure, okay? The problem is this is a fraction, okay? This includes decimal, and even if you divide one case into 12 units and then try to get it back to one case, you'll never get the one case. You'll get 0.9999997 of a case. So you're stuck with portion of cases in your inventory. And on the scanner, it will look something like this. So you're gonna see something like this. So you have your case and your units, which is 0.833333 case. So this will create headaches and problems with the rounding of the units here. So this is never recommended. Like I said, the base unit should always be the smallest unit that's gonna go on any kind of transaction that you're gonna do in SAP. Second thing that I saw is this, okay? So client didn't wanna create different units of measure group for different product because, you know, it was a hassle. It didn't want to take the time to do it. So what they've done is create a general unit of measure groups, which included all the units of measure that they were using. So although it's pretty simple to use in SAP, everything was going fine in SAP. There was no issue there. The problem was when we tried to install WMS on that kind of database. So what's going to happen at that moment is that when you have this in your scanner, this is what the operator will see when doing a transaction on that item. So it means that all units of measure will show, and the operator will have to decide which one is the right one that he has in front of him.
That's such an important detail, Francine, that you're saying there. It changes everything.
Yes, okay. So this is not recommended. So I will since we did some modification on our test unit, I will just reopen my scanner and show you what a good unit of measure group will do for your operator. Okay, so I'm gonna select my product. And there you can see it's very simple, very clear. So I have my eaches, my boxes, which are 4 eaches, my carton, which are 2 boxes, and my pallet, which is 27 carton. So it's very easy for the operator to know exactly what he has in front of him and to input the right information in the scanner. So basically, if you are thinking of having a WMS at some point, or just creating EDI or ASN documents, units of measure group are your ally all the way.
And again, Francine, like you said earlier, excuse me, you said that once you set them up, you cannot change them. But if somebody has version 10 of SAP Business One, you can deactivate units of measurements that you do not want to use so that you have a cleaner thing. Yes. And there you're going to have a nice WMS scan with just the amount of names that you had mentioned.
Exactly.
So that's quite important. So does anybody have any questions? You've got, if you just use your mouse and go to the bottom, just scroll around the bottom, you've got there a Q&A box that you can just write it or just raise your hand and I can unmute you while you have Francine with you. But no, very interesting. And thank God that that came out in version 10 because somebody, Francine, that set this up and goes in to have a WMS system, you know, this could be a nightmare, you know, if...
It was.
You know, it was. It's nice doing garbage in, garbage out, but when you can't do the garbage out, it really, it's not fun.
Yes.
Well, I don't think I have any questions. So did you have anything else to specify?
No.
You're good. All right. Well, thank you very much, Francine. It's very interesting. And
thank you.
If anybody has questions, send me an email or just submit a ticket through our auto task for the support desk and we'll help you out. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks, Francine.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.